These are people who have broken a law. There's no doubt about that. But they are getting sentences that are way, way more severe.
Well, basically, we're putting too many people in prison for far too long.
This is not a new policy by the Obama administration. Both the president and the attorney general have been talking about this. But in terms of the overall magnitude, are we looking at hundreds, thousands of potential convicts who could be released from jail under this clemency plan?
Clemency is really an act of mercy by the president. It's one of the few powers the president has that he or she can wield independent of any legislative action. So the president can say, anyone who is in prison, I decide that they should be released today.
A clemency petition goes through 3 separate departments sort of before it's signed by the president. The first is the Office of the Pardon Attorney.
Well, as the pardon attorney, I make recommendations to the Department of Justice.
It goes next to the Deputy Attorney General.
We expect to receive thousands of additional applications for clemency.
Then it goes to the president to be signed, and I think obviously the president makes the final determination in every case.
So the main criteria that we're looking at with all these applications we're getting is, would your sentence be different today? And this really only applies to the drug area where there have been such significant changes in drug laws. So that's one very important criteria. We're also looking at their conduct. We want to make sure that these people don't pose a risk to public safety. So we look to make sure that their offenses were not violent, that their past was not violent, not just the conviction that landed them in prison, but also any other convictions they may have. And we also look at their prison conduct to see how they've behaved during their time in prison.
I had life plus 10 years. That's a death sentence for 60 grams of crack cocaine.
Evans Ray was one of the first clemency petitions that I worked on. When he was a young man in his 20s, he occasionally sold drugs, and he had 2 convictions that were a few months apart, for which he served a few years in jail. Jump forward 15 years, he's got a different life. He's got a wife, he's got 2 kids. He bought a barber shop. He was living the American dream. He was approached by somebody and asked if he would provide them with drugs. And this is on the record. He said, I don't do that anymore. I don't really know anybody. But the friend came to him and said, no, I really, really need help. My life is in danger. Mr. Ray was able to get the drugs from somebody else. He didn't make any money off of it. He basically was the middleman and sold them, handed them to his friend for the money. And then he was arrested. And he was arrested and charged with an offense which carried a 10-year mandatory minimum. But based on his 2 previous drug offenses that he had committed more than 15 years earlier, he was facing a mandatory life sentence.
My best lesson in those 12 years that I did was to never give up hope, never give up faith. The White House, Washington, August the 3rd, 2016. Dear Evans, I wanted to personally inform you that I am granting your application for commutation. I am granting your application because you have demonstrated the potential to turn your life around, but you will confront many who doubt people with criminal records can change. I believe in your ability to prove the doubters wrong and change your life for the better. So good luck and Godspeed. Sincerely, Barack Obama.
You can give them this training, and they will take this training and then turn it to the side and go back to a life of crime.
The first thing I did when I walked out to the van, I looked back at the penitentiary and I said, you'll never see me again.
People who are concerned, and I understand it very much, the concern that many of these people are hardcore drug dealers, and they were involved in very nasty activities for many years. A number of critics might not see, and I always enjoy the opportunity to sit down and talk to people about it, is just the disparity between the sentences that were imposed then and are imposed now.
Now, I can't tell you that I didn't make some mistakes or some bad choices or pick some bad friends. But everybody in prison isn't bad. It's just that these sentencing laws that they are passing down are so unfair.
And there's a lot more consensus today that the experiment we have been engaged in for 30 years of locking everybody up for a very long time has failed, and it's really, really expensive.
But money plays into this. The budget of the Bureau of Prisons, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, is many, many hundreds of millions of dollars, and it costs an awful lot. For example, if you talk about life sentences, it costs a staggering amount to incarcerate someone for life.
And in fact has probably made us less safe because we have been using so many resources to keep people in prison that could have gone to protecting communities through, maybe more policemen on the streets or better, technologies to help detect actual crime, dangerous crime. But so up until recently, it's been really hard for a rational voice on sentencing to be heard.
There's a lot left to be done. This was just the tip of the iceberg.
And my advice will be to look at what we did and what we accomplished and see if that's appropriate and see if it's something that should continue.
I'm hopeful that the next president will continue using the clemency power as generously as this president has, but I also hope that they do an even better job of it.
The theme that I hear from lots of clients and mothers, they call me crying and say, but so-and-so killed somebody and he's serving 15 years. How is my son who sold drugs serving life? I never know what to say to that. So what Congress can do is get rid of the mandatory minimums.
I asked them to please take a look at mandatory minimums. Please see that there's some guys locked up that don't deserve to be locked up for as long as they have been.
But this is a nation of second chances, that we don't believe that you make one mistake and that is the end of your life.